I'm Rhett Nelson with EastIdahoNews.com, and I have a special guest today through Zoom. His name is Jeff McCollough. You may have seen his YouTube channel. He's a Christian pastor, and he's doing a deep dive into the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Jeff, thanks for taking some time with us today to talk about this.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. I appreciate you having me on and giving me the opportunity to share about this pretty unexpected but exciting journey.
You're not actually from Eastern Idaho. The reason I reached out to you is because there is a high percentage of members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in our area. And so it's the fact that you are exploring the LDS Church is a topic that obviously is of interest to a lot of people in this area, in our neck of the woods. Where do you call home?
I'm just outside of St. Louis. Technically, I'm on a lot of people don't know, St. Louis, the arch is overlooking the Mississippi. On the other side of the Mississippi is Illinois. So I'm on the Illinois side of the Mississippi in the St. Louis suburb.
Okay. So there is a lot of a wide variety of Christian churches in that area of the country.
Yeah. I mean, it's mainly going to be Catholic, Lutheran, and then run of the mill, just pretty much every other brand of evangelical. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Got it. So I am excited to talk to you about, your thoughts on why you decided to do this and what you've learned. But I wanted to start, first of all, by getting to know you a little bit. What is your background, religious background?
Sure. Yeah. So I grew up in a Protestant church. It was something that was always central to my family. Very, very important. Both of my parents were devout, not just in attending church, not just in serving, but just when it came to faith in general. Faith has always been central to just my upbringing. One of the things we talk about in the evangelical world is this whole concept of having a personal relationship with Jesus, personal relationship with God. And they were always really good at instilling the importance of that in my life, that, it's not about going to church necessarily. It's not about doing all of these religious things and activities. It always came back to relationally, where are you before the Lord? Have you been reconciled? Is your faith in Jesus? And do you feel that there, as a result, is a spiritual activity that's taking place in your life? So that was my DNA growing up. And, very long story short, I ended up, attending church, being actively involved, leading Bible studies through high school and involved in youth group, and then went away to a Christian school, met my wife, worked in audio, video production and radio, TV, marketing for a few years before I felt a call into pastoral ministry. So transitioned into that, went back to school, went to grad school, became ordained with the Christian Missionary Alliance, which is my denomination. And yeah, just within the past few years, sort of started to entertain the idea of mixing both of those worlds. Just sort of that, audio video training that I had with now all this ministry training and experience that I had. And in the meantime, drop in the middle of all that, this, I don't know what you want to call it, intrigue, fascination, curiosity about the Latter-day Saint Church that I knew almost nothing about until I took a trip out to Utah to visit some friends a few years ago. So putting all of that together is sort of, the culmination of that is what you now see with Hello Saints.
Got it. You gave me a perfect segue into why you decided to do this, but there's something you said that I'm curious about now. You said that you felt called after doing another career path to go into ministry.
Sure.
What was that moment that made you think I want to go this direction?
Yeah. Honestly, it was things were going well in my position. I was the director of design services at a pretty large marketing firm. And as good as things were going, I was feeling very unfulfilled and hollow every day. What I was doing, spending my time doing for me personally was just, it left me at the end of each day longing for, there's got to be something more that I could be putting my time and effort toward. And as my wife and I prayed about it, just really started to feel that connecting with people on issues that have eternal implications. Focusing in this life on eternal things with people is really where I and we wanted to be, which is what led us into this path of ministry.
Got it. Okay. So now you got this YouTube channel, and I failed to mention in the beginning, it's called Hello Saints. And as I mentioned before, it's just, you do videos, I don't know, once a week.
Every couple of weeks. Yeah. I was doing shorter form videos every so often in between my long video releases, but I'm kind of in the process of trying to scale back other things that I'm doing so that I can push more exclusively focus on Hello Saints. So that has required me to cut back on a little bit of content, but the 2-week rhythm I've been able to stay pretty consistent with as far as releasing videos on YouTube.
Got it. And this started about 6 months ago. Is that right?
Yeah, it was March of 2022. Yep.
Okay. So why did you decide to do this?
I mentioned before that I had visited a friend out in Utah, and that was sort of coinciding with just within conversations that my wife and I had been having. It was in the middle of the pandemic, so we're talking 2020. I think that was a moment of time where a lot of us sort of stopped and took an inventory of our lives and what we were doing, why we were doing them, sort of daydreaming every day about when everything opens back up. Do I want to move back into everything I've been doing, how I've been doing it? Or is this the opportunity to think about something different? I think most people I talked to we were working through that sort of inner dialogue and consideration. And that was partially what was going on with me and with my wife, that maybe this commitment to ministry, which isn't going to change, it's this desire to focus on important engagement with people on eternal matters, doesn't necessarily have to look like in the box career vocational pastor. And initially, as I'm sort of introspectively processing and praying through that, and then this friend who we visit was really in a lot of ways sort of making overtures, like, why don't you guys come out here, and you want to talk about having a unique spiritual environment for you to engage with a culture that's very different than anything else. You could have a lot of eternal conversations and opportunities out here with people who believe differently. And I honestly didn't think twice about it. I mean, I was like, no, not interested. I'm here to have fun and hike and do all these other things. So, but then 4 or 5 months later, I really don't know what to attribute it to other than the Lord. I just kept being reminded of that invitation. And so I started having some conversations with some people out there, pastors, ministry leaders, former Latter-day Saints, current Latter-day Saints, and visiting out there a lot. And before too long, I was just like, maybe some of this intrigue is not just a fascination. Maybe there's something more purposeful that can come out of this. So I started then to take some of these ideas, even that I co-run a video production company on the side. I've done that for years. And we had talked about producing YouTube content that has a faith focus. So I just started pulling all of these pieces from all these different areas together and thinking, it would be really cool if I can essentially chronicle this journey that I'm on to learn more about the Latter-day Saint Church, because I don't know anything about it, and people around me don't know anything about it. So to be honest with you, even though most of the people that seem to be watching and responding to my videos are Latter-day Saints, one of the major motivations to doing it was to, with fellow evangelicals, learn about this faith group that's gigantic right in the middle of America. And maybe we can learn together, and they can learn along with me. Now, the vast majority of my audience is Latter-day Saints. There are very few evangelicals who are paying attention to the channel, and those who are being ultra critical of it for various reasons we could get into. But that's really how it all kind of came together. And I honestly was not expecting it to resonate the way that it has. I was thinking this would be, again, sort of a side kind of passion project that has some intrinsic value. But it has turned into much more than that, for sure.
Wow. So as you said, before you started this, you didn't know anything about the LDS Church. What, prior to getting into this, what were your assumptions or your limited understanding of what the LDS Church was?
Universalism with a VIP club. That's what I thought it was. It
Okay, so
was pretty
explain.
much everybody goes, yeah. I mean, it was that sort of harsh and abrasive. It was like, yeah, they believe that everybody goes to heaven, and the only ones who get to the highest level of heaven are Latter-day Saints. And then it was all the history. Like, well, the truth claims of the Book of Mormon are false, and Joseph Smith was a false prophet, and it's demonic, and stay away from it. All of those thoughts were hardwired into me. And honestly, I couldn't even back it up with articulating what Latter-day Saints believe, because I was just being told why I should stay away from it, and why it's problematic, without any real analysis of the belief system. So I couldn't have even told you the difference between Latter-day Saints and Jehovah's Witnesses. Um, so that's why, as I began to engage more, read about it more, talk to current and former Latter-day Saint um, individuals, I started to see that there's more nuance, there's more history, there's more culture, there are more dynamics, there's more spiritual activity involved in this whole culture and in this whole belief system that that deserves a harder look. Um, because it's easy to shadow box a religious system that you don't agree with, based on the apologetic antidotes and one-liners that we accumulate. But that's this whole idea of, rather than shadow boxing Latter-day Saints, why don't I, instead of fight them, fight my very own criticism of them? And how can I fight that criticism? And that's why one of the mantras on my channel is to fight criticism with curiosity. So when we're critical of someone, we are making absolute statements from an authoritative posture. This is the truth, and this is why I'm right, and why you're wrong, and why you're doing it the wrong way. So it's statements, right? You fight statements with questions. What if I just ask questions? Even if I don't agree with someone, what if I just ask questions? And as I began to do that more, I began to see these beautiful conversations and meaningful dialogues emerge, that I'm like, wow, if I don't come into this as an expert, but I simply ask questions, there's so much more opportunity to learn and to exchange viewpoints on a heart level, which I found to be super rewarding.
That's interesting. Before we get into what you've learned as you've gone through this, what do you think causes people to, have those preconceived notions and be so closed-minded about, exploring other faiths?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there are two main things off the bat. One, I think um, this is the American way, and we see this in so many other areas, whether it has to do with politics or issues of race or other social issues. People will dig their heels in to their positions, and I think all of us are saddened and weary by the dialogue and commentary that takes place between people who don't agree in our country, especially over the past 5 or 6 years, how it can just be so divisive. Um, so I think honestly, it's kind of hardwired into our culture right now, just society in America. We're not very good at having conversations. We're better at arguing and debating. But I also think just within a faith context, evangelicals and Protestants, and even Catholics for that matter, though more Protestants, we have a very strong conviction that the Bible is sufficient for everything we need to know about who God is, what his will is, and how to return to him, how to be reconciled to him. And it's tied to the apostolic authority that we believe the scripture possesses, Old and New Testament. And we hold very, very firmly to the fact that anything added to that is claimed to be authoritative or inspirational, um, we will dismiss it out of hand. We'll just say, no, we have the Bible, we have the Old New Testament. So for someone to come on the scene like Joseph Smith and claim to be a prophet, claim to have interacted with God, and to have a revelation from him that is now the Book of Mormon, it flies in the face of everything that we adhere to when it comes to, just from an epistemological standpoint, what God has revealed um, and the purposes as to why he's revealed them. So additional revelation that's on the same level as the Bible is probably the main thing. Now, if you get into some other areas which get a little bit more difficult because people will just argue in circles about it when it comes to like truth claims, when it comes to, the historicity, the DNA, certain doctrinal issues like the curse of Cain and some of those things. Yeah, I mean, there are historical and theological issues that people in the Protestant church take issue with, but I would say 99% of Protestants don't even know about those things. It's comes back to this guy claimed to be a prophet and he's added to the Bible. I'm out. Hard pass.
Wow. So since beginning this journey over the last 6-8 months, you have explored a variety of things. You visited church historic sites. You have visited the grounds of temples. You have visited LDS bookstores. And I think your latest video, you even went to a session of General Conference, which is where the prophet and the apostles speak to the worldwide membership. I'm curious, how has your perception changed since you've done a deep dive into all this?
My perception has changed that there is a spiritual reality that goes beyond belief system that I'm finding myself very much captivated by. And what I mean by that is, like I was saying a second ago, it's easy to just dismiss off the bat different theological beliefs that I say, I don't agree with that. And if you agree with it, then I don't agree with you. So that's it. But I think one of the things that has struck me most has been, first of all, there's a complex history and a complex evolution that the church has gone through that I do believe is tied to a spiritual reality that goes beyond just someone wanting to start a church, which is what I would have said, prior to this journey. But that as I'm interacting with Latter-day Saints, and I allude to this on a lot of my videos, aside from the history, aside from the information, aside from the doctrine, as I'm interacting with Latter-day Saints, I'm just becoming more and more acutely keyed into the importance of understanding the spiritual reality of where anybody stands and not dismissing them at face value because they adhere to a specific religious belief, but the opportunities to exchange not just dialogue, relationship with people who are earnestly and fervently wanting to make sense of this existence in relationship to the Creator, in relationship to the Savior. I'm finding to be a fascinating, fruitful, and much more nuanced journey than just sort of an informational intake or exchange. It's spiritual.
What to you is the most intriguing belief or aspect of the LDS Church?
I think that Latter-day Saints are the ones that I've interacted with. They have been recently putting a focus on Jesus as Savior more than I think I had been told. And really, from a Latter-day Saint standpoint, many have admitted to me that there was a time where Jesus was sort of not brushed aside. I know that his name has always been in the name of the church, but there have been ebbs and flows throughout the history of the church, where even in the Brigham Young days, there was a lot more focus on the development organizationally and infrastructure and ecclesiology and some of those things. And then even the focus on Jesus for so many years being focused on Gethsemane as opposed to the cross. I'm actually finding more Latter-day Saints are focused on the cross and his atoning sacrifice through his death than I think I initially thought that they were. And that's important to me. That's where some real important conversations are had. Because for me, as an evangelical, as a Protestant, it always comes back to the cross, always. And I'm not saying that we keep Jesus on the cross. I'm not saying that, his death was more important than his resurrection. Nobody in the evangelical church teaches or preaches that. We believe it's both. He defeated sin on the cross, Colossians chapter 2, and he defeated death in the resurrection, 1 Corinthians chapter 15. So there are more Latter-day Saints who are spiritually seeming to not only resonate, but communicate from the standpoint of a testimony, the focus on Christ shed blood on the cross and what that means for our standing before the Lord. So that's a really unexpected thing that I've seen transpire beyond all of the other things regarding like plural marriage and different degrees of glory and eternal progression. To me, it's got to always come back to the cross. That's where I'm finding myself more intrigued by the things that are similar than the things that are different.
Oh, interesting. So you found that there's actually more alike than there is difference.
Yeah, still, in full disclosure, concerning and problematic in some ways, but not full sail. Like I said, rejection. There are people bearing a testimony to me about salvation through the cross and hope in the resurrection in some ways that are pretty intriguing to me, for sure.
So one of the distinguishing features of the LDS Church is the Book of Mormon. What are your thoughts on the Book of Mormon?
This is one of the biggest criticisms I get, rightfully so, but I have a reason behind it. I haven't read it yet. And I haven't read it yet for a couple of reasons. One, I don't think I can state with enough convincing words how lowly we consider the Book of Mormon, how it was raised to just flat out reject it, and why I was raised to reject it and taught to reject it. And I'm not saying that I have to accept it before reading it. Don't hear me saying that. What I'm saying is I am going to come into it with such a level of skepticism and criticism that I'm giving myself time to engage outside of the Book of Mormon with just it on a cultural and religious level and a relational level to maybe pave the way a little bit more to help me maneuver through the biases I'm already going to bring to the reading of it. So that's one of the main reasons why I haven't read it yet. Two, one of the reasons why I haven't read it yet is because honestly, I didn't have a blueprint for this. I literally was just like, I'm going to watch videos about what the church teaches and react to that and maybe check out some historic sites. But it really is a journey. I just haven't gotten there yet on that journey, but that's probably the next thing that I'm going to be doing within the next month or two is actually reading through the Book of Mormon and providing sort of my take on it.
So, like you said, this started out as just being, oh, I'm going to watch a few videos and react to that, but it's evolved into something much more. So where do you see this channel? What direction you see this going in the coming weeks and months?
I'm just going to hold true to letting it be what it is. You know what I mean? I've been getting that question a lot, even from, I was talking to my dad about this recently. He's like, what's the end game here? Because he's intrigued and fascinated by what's going on. And the end game for me is to be able to continue to not only learn and explore, but to sort of clearly exchange. Here's where we're similar, and here's where we're different. And the fruit that I'm hoping that will continue to be bared by this, that will keep it going, as far as I'm concerned, is just the ongoing interest in dialogue. And even a lot of the personal conversations and interactions that are coming out of it. I mean, that honestly is the most valuable part of this. It goes beyond like creating cool content and, fun content. To me, it's about a lot of the DMs that I'm getting, the emails that I'm getting, the comment section, people who I know in Utah who are saying, hey, I've got this friend whose nephew wants to talk to you about some of this stuff. That as long as those opportunities continue to present themselves, I'll continue to journey.
Wow. Jeff, this is fascinating. Let me mention one more time for people. The channel is called Hello Saints. It's a channel. You can subscribe to it on YouTube, and he has a bunch of videos already that you can see. Anything else you want to add, Jeff, about this journey?
Um, yeah, I actually said this on another podcast that I was on earlier this week, and I'll just repeat it here just to get the word out. Um, I just want to sort of reiterate a couple things. First of all, I really am a Protestant pastor from the Midwest. I am not a paid Latter-day Saint plant to help convince people that
Really? You've
that
been
we can all
getting
just get along.
people
I've
apply.
been getting a lot of that.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Yeah. Um, so all kidding aside, um, I really am hoping that the authenticity of my earnest curiosity continues to resonate with people, because I'm hoping that as people see how we can engage on topics that in large part have been adamantly, passionately, and in a lot of contentious ways divisive, um, um, missionaries getting doors slammed in their face type of stuff. It doesn't have to be that way. I think that's my main message that I want to get out. Even if you don't have a huge investment or interest in evangelical Christianity or the Latter-day Saint Church, we can talk about this, and it's okay. And we don't have to go after each other's dignity. Like, someone's dignity is one of the most precious aspects of who they are. So I think we can honor each other even when we disagree. And honestly, I think that's when the most beautiful opportunities emerge. So I hope that continues to be at the heartbeat of the channel. And regardless of the subject matter or the topics that you engage in, that it helps people feel courageous to have conversations that are disarming and help maintain people's dignity even if we disagree.